So we pulled out some cast-offs. So they would normally have been thrown on the rubbish heap, but I always try to save my plants. I often find that my staff go and dump everything which looks half dead onto the bonfire or the compost heap, and they think that I would miss it. But I usually rummage around the rubbish heap, and this is what I've been saving over the last few years. So I've just picked out, was it 2, 4, 5 plants, and I thought I would do something with them. So let us start with the easiest one first. This, I think, is a cutting that I made of some of those hardy Chinese elms. There are many types of Chinese elms. So you can see over a period of time, this is a goat willow cutting. If you care to make a goat willow into a bonsai, you can try and do that. Put it in a small marmite pot and you would get a very cute plant. But I've got so many, I'm not going to keep it. There's some more wild grasses. All these are weeds. And I just noticed that there's another weed here. Before I go too far, let me just see. Normally I would throw this away as well. I don't know what this is. It's some sort of clover, is it? I certainly don't know the name of this plant. But I just thought that this would make quite an interesting accent plant. I may need to find a smaller pot. But I may find a smaller pot and see what happens to this. So this is going to be put in a small pot. I'll find a pot meanwhile. Now let's get back to the main plant. And this, as I told you, was a cutting of a hardy Chinese elm, very hardy Chinese elm. You see how small the leaves are. And because it's been exposed to the sun, it has turned prematurely yellow. What can I do with this? As I always say, every plant has several solutions. I could just make it into a big broom-style tree that tall. I could even use very thick wire and get a bend in it. Can you see it does bend? And create an informal upright shade. But because I have so many like that, let me do something a bit different. I'll say a bit different, a bit radical. And you probably guessed it. I'm going to cut it back to about here. What a waste, wasting half the tree.
Another cut.
And then let's cut these back to here. And you see how right the scale looks now. The scale for that tree looks just right. And you've got a nice small bonsai for that shape. I'm going to find the right pots for this. So just wait a minute. So you can hear the rain. We're in the middle of summer, 5th of August, and it's dark and the lights are on and it's absolutely pouring with rain outside. But we can carry on doing bonsai. Many people comment on the videos and they ask me, can you make bonsai throughout the year? The answer is yes. There are some channels, I believe, that tell you, oh, you can only do bonsai in the winter time, or you can only do bonsai in the spring. Don't do any wiring the rest of the year. You can do anything throughout the year. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm right in the middle of summer and I'm doing this. I made a big cut. And I know that this is a hardy species, so I can even do a little bit of root pruning. Normally if you do on a major tree, it may be a bit dangerous, but as I say, you just got to use your common sense. But as I say, although we talk about common sense, it's not so common. A lot of people do not have it, but generally people have it. So I'm going to use common sense and do a bit of root pruning. I'm going to make this a nice broom style tree. I chose some pots. That's a lovely Chinese pot, high quality Yixing pot. I think that tree is a bit too small for that pot. I think that pot might be the right size. That would be perfect. And this of course is a very high quality pot. Look at it. It's one of the run-of-the-mill Japanese tokoname pots. So I'm going to use this pot for this tree. So I will do a bit of pruning, and knowing that these trees are so tough, they will survive. I could even save some of these roots and make root cuttings from it. So what will I do? Let me prepare the pot, put a bit of mesh, and look at that tree carefully. I never waste anything. See, all this used mesh I use over and over again. No need for waste. So, let's see where we get to. Those of you who've been doing bonsai for a while will know that certain species are tough as old boots, and the elm is certainly one of them. The elm, by the way, is a very big species. In America, they have a very small elm. I don't know what the name is. I come across an elm called the Seju elm. That's also got very small leaves like this. And if I keep it nice and moist, this tree will certainly come through. So how about that? So a tall tree, which was this tall, we cut down and made a potential broom style tree. So that's that one. What about that bit of weed? This is a very noxious weed, I must say. It spreads all over the pots, and you see these little yellow flowers. After they flower, they form these seeds, and these seeds turn black and they explode and send new plants and shoots everywhere. But for the time being, let's have some fun. This is my bag of pots. I have so many little pots. And because this is a trailing plant, I might just try and see if this cascade type pot would be right. If I don't try, I won't know. And being a weed, you don't have to worry about soil. In fact, the less soil, the better. Look at that. Look at that. Don't let it go that tall. That's pretty, isn't it? So weed made into a small accent plant. So that's not wasted. Unfortunately, I don't have a timber pot for that, but if I did find a timber pot, that could be a potential tree. Okay, let's not get distracted too much by all the other things. Let's look at the next project. Next project is this one. And this is a cotoneaster. The cotoneaster has got many different species and varieties. I don't know the name of this variety, but it certainly looks interesting. And you can see what I did. At some point I cut the tree off over there and hoping for a new leader to go there, which it has done. So let's clean that leader off. So what can we do? The beauty of this plant is really in the roots there. So I think if I don't want to be too wasteful, I'll just make it into a nice S shape, and let's hope for the best. We could get a very interesting tree out of it. So let me just use a fairly thick piece of wire, and I'm in fact breaking the rule. I'm just trying to wire one branch on its own without doing the two branch principle, but I've anchored it to the base So that should be okay. And this is 3.5 mil wire. Next Saturday we've got a big party in the outside gardens. I hope it won't get washed out, but I think the forecast is for good weather. But the rain is relentless. So if the wire is strong enough, it should be able to enable me to bend it into an interesting shape. Oops, I may have cracked it, but I think it will survive. One piece of wire. Already quite promising. So let's put another piece of wire and see what happens. Cotoneaster is one of these very easy to propagate species, but for some reason in the commercial market you don't often find Cotoneaster bonsai. This tree is crying out to be the front looking this way. So let us carry on wiring the tree. I don't want to overdo it. The whole object is to show you how simple it is to do. Again, you notice that a lot of our soil is this dark, I don't like to refer to peat, but in the old days we used to use peat. But this is just organic stuff. I noticed that in a lot of these different growers and different sites for bonsai, they are tending to grow bonsai in almost like gravelly soil. I'm not convinced that it is the best soil for all types of bonsai. It may be okay for certain pines and junipers, but many of the deciduous trees will not do well in that type of soil. They need a lot of organic matter. This is just my view. And if you look at some of the plants that grow in nurseries and garden centers, they still use that soil. How many people use that gravelly soil? So these trees continue to grow well in this soil, so I'm not that bothered about using that gravelly type compost. Now what shall I use? I will use, this is a lovely, look at that glaze. This is a very high quality Chinese pot. So probably this would fit in there. So let us pot it up. By the way, talking of pots, someone very kindly gave me some plastic, look at that. Doesn't it look like a bonsai pot? It's only a dish, Christmas dish. If you drill some holes to it because it's plastic, it would be a very nice bonsai pot. Who would know the difference? Who would know the difference? No one would know the difference. And I put the old soil back rather than waste soil. Again, I only use like a couple of pieces of wire, and now to make it complete, I'm going to find some rocks to complement that. Let me just show you some of the rocks that I've found. This is not rock, this is a piece of cement, but it looks like a rock. So I could put it there, and it would look alright. But what have I got here? Look at it, that is almost like balsa wood. It is so light. It is a piece of Japanese pumice, and this is the pumice that the pines and junipers have been planted in when they come from Japan. It is such a light rock, but it's got beautiful texture, as you can see, so I can use some of that as well. That would look nice. But again, remember never to overdo anything. If you overdo anything, it becomes to look artificial. So as they say, less is more. And if you can just put some moss around it, that would be a very credible bonsai. Okay, so that is the second one now. Now number 3, this is a pivot. This is a pivot that we almost discarded. But let's take it out of the flower pot and see what lies underneath. I think the beauty, you see how it's been callousing, that's lovely there. But it's also lovely from this side, look at that. Look at that beautiful feature there. Probably we don't need that. I'll try to cut that off. I broke it so that it has a better texture rather than just cut it. Long. That's a lovely side. Lovely front. Let's do a little bit of wiring and see what happens. Low. Make it look like a tree. Twist some of the branches. Make it look more interesting. I'm exploiting that beautiful hollow feature of that trunk. I don't know whether that looks nice or not. Let's see. I think that root is coming in the way. Let's take that off. I don't think I need that. Exploit that hollow there, and that becomes a fairly credible tree. The privet is a very much neglected plant. People don't realize how versatile the privet is. In the days when I couldn't afford to make much bonsai, all I ever used were things like larch, privet, ordinary beech trees, and there's no end to what you can use. Anything which is growing can be used. This I will burn because this is a very obnoxious couch grass. Spreads like wildfire. Again, you know your species. The privet is such an invasive plant that however hard you cut it, it will continue to grow. So I know that I can do this sort of thing in the middle of summer. If it was a Japanese maple, I would not dare to do that because it might not survive. But privet I know will survive. I haven't been too drastic because the root ball is quite compact. Look at it from this side. Even this side is interesting. You see, these are almost like aerial roots. So if I wanted to, I could put it in a round pot and I'd get away with it. This is all being filmed in real time. There's no shortcuts or tricks that I'm doing. This is only a rough potting. I should really tie it in and all that. That just shows you what can be done. Look at that. Very credible. You can't even turn it around more that way. If I wanted to, I could even cut it off there and just let young shoots grow. But the beauty of that tree is in its powerful trunk. It is not in any of your traditional Japanese styles. It's more like in the Chinese style. You know, they use the roots of trees and the beauty of the root. Look at the beauty of that. Absolutely natural. I haven't done any carving, mind you. No carving done at all. There you go. So that is another one done. That is number 3. So what have we got for number 4? This is, believe it or not, an air layering I made many years ago of European hornbeam. And because it's an air layering, I know that it won't have thick, massive roots. Look at it. Acorn growing here, oak seedling, tree for free. Can it not so long? Look at that oak. What I will do is I will put a piece of oil on that. I'll create the bonsai. That little oak seedling, rather than just let it grow straight up, it could be made more interesting simply by making it into an S shape. I know many people will criticize me for, oh, why do you have to make a tree look like a Japanese tree or a Chinese tree? Let it grow like an English tree, but I want an instant effect. So I will do what is more recognizable as the classic bonsai shape, which is the informal upright shape. Much more interesting than if I just let to grow straight. So I will put that in a pot like that and you will have a very credible tree. No, that's a bit small. That blue pot there. You notice I haven't cut any root on them. I have cut nothing. I've coiled the root round because I know that if I stress it too much, it might endanger the tree. So I will just pot it up, coiling the root. Usually trees like this I give to customers who are doing bonsai for the first time, and this encourages them to make bonsai from virtually anything. Mind you, it doesn't do my business any good because I'm not selling anything. There we go. Stray seedling from that pot. Instant English oak. So let's see what we've got here. So as I said, this is an air layering, so let's explore what root is underneath. The beauty of this fellow is that over a period of time, all that has rotted away. I haven't done any carving. I like to see some of these people who are able to carve, but just shows you when I say it's an air layering, look at it. That's where it was cut off. That's where it was cut off, and that is the air layering. So I'm not telling a lie, because I usually remember every single project that I've done. However long ago it was, I still remember it. So this is an air layering probably done about 15 or more years ago. And over a period of time, it has formed this beautiful shape. This is where bonsai gives you a sense of time. A lot of gardeners even recognize that growing trees gives you a sense of time. But bonsai gives you that sense of time in a more pronounced way. You really begin to appreciate what time means in bonsai. I know that I've made bonsai literally in a matter of minutes, but for a tree to really mature, it does take time. It does take time. So this is the state of the tree now. This air layering is one-sided, hence this side died. And we can just nibble away and see. And as you can see, that's the original air layering where it was cut off. Look at that. So the beautiful side is really like this. This possibly is a bit too large. But it might do. Again, knowing hornbeams are so tough, I can just take some of the root off. I don't mind planting this in a leaning position because with that broken trunk, it seemed that the tree is collapsing, which in fact it is. So to emphasize that sort of image that I'm trying to create, I will let it go in this leaning style. You notice I'm again using this old soil. I don't like wasting anything. This soil is perfectly fine. All it needs is good drainage. I think this drains quite well. And as I said, a lot of these deciduous trees, they don't benefit from a soil which is too gravelly. A soil which is richer in loam, loam means mud, would benefit these trees. I'll finish it off later on. And in order to give it a more full appearance, I will do a little bit of wire, just to see if I can enhance the image a little more. I'm glad we have so much wire. I still recollect the old days back in the 70s and even in the 80s when bonsai wire was almost a rarity. All we ever used was coat hanger wire and the inside of electric cables. Now we are spoilt. Talking of pad formation, you look at it, trees when they grow naturally, they do form pads. Look at that structure. That's almost a natural looking pad which has been created on its own without me actually having to shape it. I just want to make the top more compact. So I'm just going to do jiggery pokery, a little coil here and there. Shorten the long branches by coiling. Give the semblance of a more compact and tighter tree. Let it grow. I can refine it by more carving if I want to. So let it develop more branches, and if anyone who has this tree can refine the carving even more, and look at it like this from this side. So something which was virtually to be thrown away is looking quite decent. And I noticed that because that dead part is splitting there, you can even make it like a split trunk. So when you think that I've only done a couple of minutes work and I've created something like that, that's not bad. Now we come to something really, really difficult. Now this is an example of not my wiring, but when we do classes, we let our participants do what they like and just play around and experiment with trees. So this was an exercise in wiring that someone did, but because they didn't like it, so they didn't purchase the tree and left it behind. So some of our staff just throw them in the corner and hope that it will continue to grow. Certainly it has continued to grow, but as you can see, some branches have died. And what I'm going to do, you can see what a lot of wiring is there. I'm not going to waste time filming this. I'm going to de-wire the whole tree. And I'll de-wire this juniper. This, by the way, is a Blaw's juniper. Many people don't think much of Blaw's, but it is a true Chinese juniper. It is in fact a juniper that Dutchman found in Japan and called it Blaw's because he took it back to Holland and propagated loads of it. So in Holland you find a lot of Blaw's juniper. So this is only Blaw's juniper. I think it was an air layering because I have a lot of these around the nursery. And because we produced it ourselves, it's not a classic Japanese style or Chinese style bonsai. So it grows in this vase shape, inverted triangle, and it has just been allowed to grow. So how can I make it look more credible as a bonsai? As you know, anything tall and gangly lends itself to a literati tree. So straight away I can see I have the possibility of a literati there, or something like this side. Or I can make it like that with an S shape. I will decide nearer the time. So let's turn the tree around and see what other options there are. So straight away, I can see that if I am to go down the literati route, the lower branches are not going to be used much. So let us get rid of some of them. Seems a shame. I might make some gins if I want to. These, by the way, would make beautiful cuttings. Anything too thin I won't be able to use, but the thinner ones could become useful as gins. Even that would not be much use. So although you think I'm cutting at random, I have a vague design image in mind, a tall literati. So these other branches are not going to be much use. Even that back one, not going to be much use. I will keep this in case I need it. Now I will have to decide whether to use this side or that side. I have a choice of two. That would make a nice tall literati, and as I said, literati are usually tall trees, so that would lend itself to tall literati. If I decided to make an S-shaped tree, that could also be a literati, not so tall. That would be nice. So I'm torn between the two. I'm absolutely torn between the two. Very difficult choice to make. Either solution would be right. Either solution would be right. Unfortunately, I don't think I could use both long branches. Somehow that would not work. I'm just trying to see whether that smooth line like an S is good, or this tree, tall, would look good. Very difficult choice. I'm not often placed in a situation where I have to make choices like that. So the choices between the lines, if it were a literati, I think the angular line would suit it better. While I'm chopping away, thoughts are going through my mind as to which would be best. That's quite a pleasing line. But so is this. So is this a pleasing line. But this may have too many gins if I use this side. How about if I use this side? That's the front. Let's do a bit of wiring and see what happens. I'm that sort of person that doesn't like making a preconceived image or drawing or design and then work towards it. I just prefer to let the image sort itself out. Very different approach. Some people berate me for it. He says that's not the way to work. But it's the way that I like to work. As I've always said, there's no right and a wrong way. As long as that method suits you, that's fine. It's the end result that matters, nothing else. So, let us begin by doing a bit of wiring. Always remembering that with the literati design, less is more, and even more important with the literati, where very much less is even more. Many people don't appreciate that. Afraid to cut. How do you get inspiration for literati design? The more you study Chinese painting, Chinese images, the more you will get to realize what works and what doesn't work. Look at that beautiful line there. See how that's shaping. Now I've got two there. Do I need both? Probably not. Don't ask me why I'm cutting that. I just feel that that should be cut. Let's wire another couple of branches. I think I've mentioned before, years and years ago, one of my Japanese suppliers came and visited me, and he was absolutely staggered that I had so many tall trees in bunjin style. He said that in Japan, the commercial nurseries hardly ever produce bunjin style. But he respected me for it because that is a sign of high taste. And although I didn't grow up in China, somehow the Chinese aesthetic still pervades in my being. Look at that. Look at those lovely branches. That's a bar branch, but it works. If I remove this other side, it wouldn't be so good. So straight away you can see that I've broken so many rules already. So let me carry on and keep wiring. Fortunately with literati, there's so few branches, so there's not a lot of wiring to do. Just choosing the correct branch. Again, what's the secret? Just trial and error. The more you try and experiment, that's the only way of knowing what works and what doesn't work.
Nice tight foliage.
As I said, Blaw's juniper is not often used for bonsai, but I've been using it for more than 40 years because we couldn't get anything else. Beautiful variety to work with. This is too much here, so let me get rid of this one. Don't ask me why, I just feel that I don't need that. It's one of those days that because the weather was so inclement that we had all that rain. It was miserable, but once you get into the swing of doing things, your mood changes. That's the beauty of bonsai. Forget all this bad weather that you are faced with, but when you're absorbed in something that you enjoy doing it, it becomes even more pleasurable. That's why we do bonsai. And I hope that what I've shown using this discarded stuff, everything can be made beautiful. I haven't wired the trunk, mind you. Actually, the more I think about it, the more I feel I've got to practice what I preach. Now that would be a very credible literati. That would really be a credible literati. Forget this side. I don't think I need that even. Let's get rid of that. Not sure about that. What can I do with it? So let me begin by just doing some ginning here. Let's gin some of these and see what happens.
It smells beautiful.
Yeah, this is all live stuff. Mind you, I'm not going to spend hours and hours refining these trees. I'm really teaching you the principles, how to think, how to create. The detail I leave you to sort out. Now, you must be wondering why I've left that side branch. I still can't decide what to do. Seems a shame that it's taken all that trouble to grow. Can I have the heart to get rid of it? Oh. Let's try something. Let's try ginning that to see what happens. Unless I try, I won't know. Let's try a bit of wiring as well. That's the only way you can know. As I said, I'm not working to a pre-configured design. I'm just going with the flow, going along and seeing what happens. If it doesn't work, we can get rid of it, but let's try it. What I'm doing is quite unusual. I won't say radical, because usually with a literati, who's going to have a big branch at this side? Only Peter Chan would. Crazy man. Let's place these branches. say, if you don't try, you won't know. And then the ends we can gin. These will all become white. Even that I might leave. Well, I might leave it like that. I don't think it looks bad. And I've run out of time, but I'm going to put it in a drum pot and I will film all the finished products afterwards. So I hope you've enjoyed the thought process of going through this. So this is what I've removed. If you were here, you could have taken these to make cuttings. So that is what I've done out of something quite useless, and we will go through all these little projects that we have created. So I will put them up and show you the final results, including that hornbeam. So all in a short space of about 1 hour. So there you go. I will then finally take a shot of all the finished products potted up. There you go. So here we are at the end of the afternoon. The sun is beginning to shine again. The rain has stopped, and just see what we have achieved in the space of 1.5 hours. We've made 3, 6, 7 little bonsai. So let's begin from this side. That oak seedling we put into an S shape in a Japanese pot. That Chinese elm which we cut down to size in half, and that weed we've put in this pot to make an accent planting is wilting a bit, but it should pick up because I left it unwatered. And then of course my tall literati with the long side branch, and it's in this free-flowing pot which splays out, so gives it a spring in the air. And that is the literati form that I've made. And then this privet with the gnarled trunk. An interesting root, and that cotoneaster, odd seedling with the exposed root and a bit of rock. And this old hornbeam air layering, which we have wired a little bit to give it more shape. And there you go. After an hour and a half, we have 2, 4, 6, 7 things to show. That is a fruitful and productive afternoon. And thank you, Josh, for being cameraman today. And I hope you've all enjoyed this as much as we have. So this will be a very special video for you to enjoy.